first want to thank everybody for helping with my project and volunteering to color. This video is going to be first going over how the files are going to be organized, how you'll access the drive and do all that stuff. And then I'll go over specifically coloring and how to do all that. So the first thing is I have the drive here. I added all of you guys to this folder that has color artists. And in this folder, I have everything you'll need for like uploading and accessing files. So first I just have a file with the turnarounds for each character. Most of you guys won't really need this, but in case you're curious. And then I have palettes, which I'll go over how to do all the palette stuff in a minute. Then I have in progress shots, colored shots, clean shots, and then I have references here. First I have the coloring overview, which is a document I made just step by step how to set up a shot, adding color card, coloring, all of that stuff. So if you forget and you don't want to look at a video, you can look at this. Then I have a background reference. This is really rough. I haven't finished it yet. And then I have AW color and UW color. So when I made the palettes, there are different colors for above and underwater. So AW is always going to be above water. So this is kind of like the palette for that. And then I'll show you the underwater one. So this is the underwater palette, just to give you a sense of where the colors would go. I'll usually try to give you a reference. For every shot I upload, I'll try to color at least one frame. That way you don't have to worry about setting up the shot and stuff, but I may get busier, and if you seem more confident with stuff, I might let you just, figure that out. And then obviously you can always contact me with any questions. Here I have that animatic update, which I won't play it now, but it's the most recent update of the animatic. These are the important folders now. So clean shots is where I put my shots when I'm done cleaning up the shots, or I think there's one or two of you that are interested in cleaning stuff, so we can talk about that. But clean shots I will upload once I've cleaned a shot. I'll put it in this folder here, and it will just be in this area. And so that's open shot for anyone to take, because there's so many of you and a lot of people are busy. I'm just gonna do it kind of, you guys just take a shot when you're available once it's posted. So you'll just take a shot from here, and then once you've decided that you're going to do that shot, you can put it in the taken shots folder to let people know the shot is taken and they don't need to do it. Then as you're working on the shot, some of them are longer, some of them are shorter. You may or may not get them done in one sitting. So if you don't finish it in one sitting, you can upload it to the in progress shots. So it's just, all of you should have some sort of drive of your own, whether it's a hard drive or USB, or just saved on your computer. You should have some sort of hard drive kind of deal going on, but this is a backup, because Toonboom is very finicky. Something is bound to go wrong at some point. So it's just kind of a check-in for, in case something goes wrong on another drive, you'll have it here or on your other drive if something goes wrong here. So once you're done coloring the shots, you'll just put it in the colored shots folder, send me a message, let me know, and then I'll get to finishing up at some of them. I might have to do extra tweaks on if I don't finish all the effects of the water and everything, and then I'll put it all in the animatic and then update it. So here are the palettes. For Toonboom, I've made palettes for all the characters and all the water and everything, and I might make another reference of what colors go where. Whenever you download a shot, you'll also download the corresponding palettes that you'll need for the shot. So if you're animating the fish, you'll download the fish palette, and I'll show you how to upload all of that. So the other thing I've given you access to is the shot schedule and project tracker thing. If I forgot to add you to this, let me know. You don't really need it, but sometimes I feel it's interesting to see, and it's good to see what's going on, how I'm doing it. This is, initially there was supposed to be a 3D portion. Unfortunately, the rig I was supposed to use did not work out, and because it's an old man, nobody likes modeling and rigging old man, so I couldn't find any other rigs that weren't really scary looking. This is kind of irrelevant at this point because the real schedule is to just get it done. This is the more important page. It has all the shots listed. You can see what shots were originally supposed to be 3D. It also has the status of each shot. So I believe I made everybody editors. So if you do take a shot in the other folder here and you move it here, you could change your coloring status to in progress /assigned and then put your name there. If you don't feel like doing it, I will be updating this as well. But I know it's sometimes fun to go and mark that you've done things. So you can also mark down if you've colored a shot, if you feel like doing that is fun. This shows how much of the project is done for each of them. So again, if you finished a shot and you want to update it, you could, change the numbers here. I did not make this. My friend Sophia knew somebody that made it, so I've kind of changed things around and made it work for my film. So I'll go over how to download a shot and add the palettes in and color it now. And I'll try to mention the keyboard shortcuts as I remember them, but I also have at the bottom of this overview some of the shortcuts here. Like the common ones are like zoom in, zoom out, going between frames, all that stuff. So in the clean shot folders you'll take from here, which there are no clean shots because I don't have any yet. I'll demo with one of the shots I've already done. So you'll just download the zip file, and I was originally uploading both the zipped and unzipped file. I'm beginning to find that's unnecessary. I would say just the zipped file because it's faster for everyone. So I'm putting it here, and now I'm going to extract, and it's probably going to take a minute because the files are pretty big. Alright, there it is. So now you're going to go into the palettes folder, and you're going to download whatever palettes you're going to need. So shot 21 is just a fish. So I'm just going to download the fish palette. Sometimes you might have to check, open it up and see who's in the shot. I'm going to try to have the palettes already in there, the ones that you're going to need, and I'll try to do an example frame just so that you know where all the colors go for that shot. But as some of you are more confident or I'm really busy, I might see if you can figure it out. I'm going to open up the Scene 21 folder, and so all you really need to know about the Toonboom folder is don't touch anything really other than what I'm going to tell you to. It all comes pre-made, so you have folders for everything. Even though there is no audio in this shot, it has an audio folder in case you were to add audio. So the palette library is where all the palettes are going to be stored, and so you can just drag and drop into the palette library. I'll say yes, replace that. And then if you go out here, this is none of this stuff you need to touch. The only thing that you need to open the Toonboom file is this one right here, the .xstage file. And it will say xstage over here, and it's not the one with the little squiggly line. It's this one here, and it's got the little Harmony logo on it. So you can just double click that and it will open up. So this shot is a lot cleaner than you guys are probably gonna get, and I apologize for that. But I'll go over the basics here. This is how the Harmony file works. Looks here, hold on, I'll change my window. Okay, so this is the default kind of window workspace. I'll work in that so you're not confused. And if you want to experiment with the other windows, they're all up here under workspaces. You can kind of experiment. And then this is when in doubt, if you can't find something, you can go in here and start just clicking these to see what windows pop up and if that has what you need. So this down here is the animate tool. You want that on. It'll animate current frame. If you have that off, it'll make things screwy, and you don't want the other one. So just make sure this is turned on or it won't work. The next thing you're gonna do is as soon as you've opened it, you're gonna save it as a new file. So you're gonna do save as, and then you're gonna rename it. We'll have you just save it as colored, the X stage. And then you're just gonna say okay. So you'll save it and you'll know that it's saved as that because up here in the top corner, it will change the name to that one. So as you're working, I recommend every time you've hit a milestone, instead of saving as, which you can do, I do save as quite a bit, but if you do save new version, you can do save or scene21 colored underscore V001. This is where you do V001, and you'd hit save. So when you've done that, it will create a new Xstage file within the same folder you just made. If you do save as, it creates a whole new folder like on the desktop or wherever you've saved it. If you do save as new version, it's gonna add a new Xstage file within the folder you already have. So it's like different increments of saving, and just update like the numbers as you go. I'll go over the palette first. So over here you have your colors and your palettes. If you're clicking around and you're like, oh no, nothing's showing up, that's because you have to click on the layer first, and then it will show you what palettes you have. Over here, you have your color and the node view. You don't need the node view right now, but in case you were curious, the node view just shows all of this. So everything that is down here in the layers, this is also in the node view. So later on, I might add certain layers in the node view for coloring. I'll let you guys know if I do this, but the plan right now is to have everybody do the flat colors first, and then if I have time, I'll go back on top with like basically a Toonboom clipping layer that will attach onto some of these layers that you've colored, and it will create a clipping mask of the color that you'll then color. But I will let you know if I do that. But just for your information, this is what the node view is it's just like a graphic representation of all of these layers down here. So under the color, you have your like color pots, and then you have your scene palettes. So to import a palette, we imported the palette before we opened it up, but if you import it after, it will still work. All you have to do is hit the button over here, the folder button, and then you'll be able to see any of the palettes that you've dropped into that palette list and in like the file folder. You'll be able to select any of those, and so I'll just hit OK, and it's already in there. So there she is. How the Toonboom colors work is it works differently than Clip Studio or Photoshop or whatever. I'll create a new layer real quick just to show you. Okay, so I have an example layer here that is just for this demo. So the way it works is I'll create a new palette or a new color, and I'll just like increase my brush size. So it's really cool and really neat. Say you have like your color here, and you can rename them if you need to. If you get like, I don't know, if there's some reason you need to rename them, you can do that by double clicking. To change the color of the palettes, you just double click the little color pot here, and this will show up. You can use eyedropper if you need to, and also there's multiple wheel mode, which will give you a lot more colors. I'll provide all the colors you need, but just in case you guys are curious for like your own projects or whatever. And the cool thing about Toonboom colors is it remembers everything you've colored with this palette name. So I could change this over here, and it will change this, and it will change this color as well to match this color now. And this goes for every frame. So if you've used that other color on multiple frames, and you've gone through and you're like drawing, and you're like, whippy. It will change the color on every frame. So if I change it to green now, it's green on every frame that I've used that color. So that's like really nice and really cool. I've changed some of the color palettes, so that's how I'll be changing them after you guys have done all the coloring. If I need to make adjustments, that's how I'll do it. So to add a color card, or really any layer, you go to the little plus button next to the layers, and then you have all your options. So if you want to add a drawing layer, it'll pop this up and you can say whatever name this is, and then if you hit add and close, it will add the layer and close it. But if you hit just add, it will pop up another layer, so you can just keep adding like a million layers until you feel like closing it. So to add a color card, you just hit color card. When the color card pops up, it is supposed to look like this and have these little boxes all over it. To change the color of the color card, you just click here, and then you go and you click on this alpha box here, and it will pop up the same thing. Again, if it starts with this and you want more options, you just hit multiple wheel mode in the top corner. For coloring, I recommend having a really bright and ugly color card. That's because it'll let you see all of the little gaps you've missed. It's really ugly, but it's also pretty effective. So I usually go with like an ugly green or something. And then I'll just like close that, and again, you can always change the color of that layer. So once we clicked on another layer, you'll notice the boxes go away, and that's how it'll actually look. I guess down here also, this is like the render view. So if you're curious what it will look like once it's rendered out, it will be this. So if you were selected on the color card and it would look like that, and you hit the render, that shows what it's gonna look like once you export it. The render doesn't play all the way through. The layer down here for render only works frame by frame. In order to do that, you would have to hit this render button down here, which you don't really need to do, but just for your information. And another layer down here that might be confusing is the light box. So if you notice, if I'm on this layer, all these lines, they look really grayed out and not really like they're supposed to, because it's supposed to be this color here. That's because the light box is on, which is really helpful for when you're doing line art or you're going over layers with that stuff. If you don't want it like that and you're coloring and you want to see how it's going to look as it is, then you want to make sure that's clicked off. The next thing I'll show is, again, you probably won't need it, but the onion skin. I like to have mine up in the corner here where all the pencil properties are. This little plus box here gives you all of these like layers that you can mess around with. The onion skin is right here. We have onion skin turned on, and then if you hit this plus, it will turn the onion skin on. These are all the layers. So you can have, so if you have them all selected, this is showing the 10 layers before and the 10 layers after, and this is the opacity of those layers. And this is the whole opacity of all of the onion skin. I usually only do one before and one after by unchecking those. By default, your onion skin will be green and red. I like to use pink and purple because it looks prettier. So this is just if you want to turn it on and off. If you want to adjust the opacity of the onion skin, you can bring it down. And this is another thing, is by drawings or by frames. So by frames is, this is showing the frame before, and I have this, so this is on 2. So this is, each box down here is a single frame. So this drawing lasts for 2 frames, and then 2 frames, and then 2 frames. So if I have it on by frames, it's gonna show this frame and this frame, which is the same frame that I already have before. So I like to do by drawings, because now it's showing this drawing, this group of 2, and this group of 2 on either side. Actually, I'll go over the pencil a little bit in case you need it and what pencil I'm using. So the pencil I'm using is just one of the Toonboom defaults, actually. Okay, it's not letting me drag it. Oh, it is. But now it's ugly. Oh Lord, what did I do? Okay, so that's how, if you accidentally drag your layers out, you can get rid of them and re-add them back in. So I'm using the grain pencil for the whole thing, minus this one because I hadn't decided on the pencil yet, unfortunately. So I'm using the grain pencil. If you click here, it will open up the pencil properties. This is where by default this grain pencil is like, has the minimum opacity down here. I want it full opacity, so I have brought it up every time I open it. And then the texture for these isn't loading in for some reason, so if this is empty and you're not seeing the texture, you want to hit this button and it will like reload the texture in, and you'll be able to select the grain texture here. For like almost all my frames, I've been using just the size 8, give or take like 2. So like I might go up to size 10 for a couple shots, but I usually use size 8, and this is the centerline smoothing. So this is just like, if you ever use Procreate, if you have like the streamline turned on in Procreate, that's basically what it is. So now I'll go over how to convert the layers into color art. So this is your selection tool, selecting things. If you were to right click on this, you'll see you can do select by color, cutter, and reposition all drawings. The only one that I ever like really use is the cutter tool, because it lets you do that and it's really nice. So let's say I make a circle and I have extra lines on the ends and I want to get rid of those. I can just use the cutter tool or hold down T on your computer and just slash through it, and it will like delete the whole line. If I want to lasso an area, I can select the cutter tool and then circle and then delete. Or you can also, if you're on this tool, hold T, circle, and delete while you're holding T. So that will get rid of the whole thing. And then let's say you do a cat and you want to get rid of some lines, and then you decide, you can also, like I'm selecting these just by tapping. Let's say you've like cleaned up all those lines and then you decide you want to make the ears like really pointy. The tool below the cutter tool is contour editor, and so this will let you click on it and see, because this is all vector based, it will let you drag these points, and then if you click on the point you can adjust these lines here, and if you hit control you can add another point to that. So that's how you could, like, I don't know, make it like really funky. There is a difference between the pencil and the brush tool. The reason I'm using the pencil tool is because I want to be able to do all this stuff pretty easily with my cleanup. It also makes it easier for using the cutter tool and all that jazz, because Toonboom is all vector based. A pencil tool is just a single line. So if I go here and I click on this, it's got the points are the line. The difference is if you use a brush tool, and let's say I use this calligraphy brush, and it's like this big, like, fancy brush, which is really nice. If you go to this tool, the points are on the outside of the line. So in order to adjust it, you would have to select both, and then it like gets weird. It's like the contour editor just like really doesn't want to work for these brush tools. The pencil tool is recommended for any of the stuff that you want to be like super clean like that. So now I'll go over how to convert the line art into color art. And as you'll see over here, I have the line art, color art under in like overlay. You will probably only see the line art and color art, which is okay because that's all you need to see. Oh, let me go into preferences real quick and show you how to do all that before I do this. I forgot. Really important thing is when you go into preferences, so if you're on a Mac, it will be under, you will have Toonboom listed here, and then it will be Toonboom preferences. On a Windows, which is what I'm on right now, it will be under edit and then preferences. The thing that you definitely want to have turned on is save scene automatically, because that means when you forget to save and Toonboom crashes, or you forget to save and you just like close out or whatever, it will have saved at least the last 10 minutes. And you can up the interval if you want, or I'm not sure if you can lower it, but 10 minutes is generally pretty good. If you want to have the reminder, you can do ask before saving, and it will like pop up a window, do you want to save? And that's like, you want to have that there. The other thing you want to have turned on is focus on mouse enter, and that's right up here. And that just means that this red box that you see this whole like box around the outside, that is showing what window is selected. That just means that you won't have to keep clicking each window to select it before you do stuff, so that's how you can easily, it will automatically select whatever window your mouse is hovering over. So those are just like some things that you definitely want to have checked that I forgot to go over before. Alright, so now to convert to color art, you're gonna go to this selection tool, and then you're gonna select this one, which is apply to visible drawing layers, and you're gonna select apply to all frames. All visible drawing layers means it's gonna go down, so that is like the vertical, it's gonna go vertically all layers, and then this one is it's gonna do all frames across. So by having these selected, it's gonna apply to like the whole thing. There may be some cases where you just want to convert the line art of like one layer, like just the detail, and in that case you would only have this one apply to all frames turned on when you're doing this. But for this you can have both selected. Then you're going to zoom way out and lasso tool everything, and it's going to look really ugly and you'll be able to see every frame that you've selected. And then you're going to go to this button is both up here and down here. You're going to do convert line art to color art, and it's going to take a minute to think on it. So now you're going to deselect and then make sure you turn these off, because it'll apply everything that you do coloring to all the frames, and it will be really annoying to go undo and lose all the work you just did. When this one is turned on, it will have apply to all frames down here, so you'll see it like that window. If that window is checked, you want to make sure you turn that off. So now you have a line art and a color art layer. Right now this L in the corner here means it is on the line art layer. If you go to the C, that will be the color art layer. When you go to the color art layer, you can see it pops up all of these little nodes here, which it looks a lot like the contour editor. So what it's done is basically made these like invisible lines in your drawing based off of the line art. So it's taken the line art and it's made these lines on the color art layer that don't have the line art in them. The next thing I'll go over is the bucket tool and like painting and all that stuff. So over here you have the little bucket, and that has paint, ink, which you won't need, paint unpainted, repaint, unpaint, stroke, and close gap. And I'll go over all of those tools individually on what they do. But the first one is just paint. So I'll just go over here, and then I'll select the fish fin, and then I'll put paint. And so that fills in this whole layer here. Oh, and if you're not seeing all these like little node things, if they're not showing up, press K on your keyboard, because that will turn them on and off. So the paint bucket just paints whatever you want it to paint. Now if you go to repaint, this is only going to affect things that you've already painted. So if I hit this, and again, if you're painting, you don't have to individually click each one, like tap tap tap. You can like swipe to paint multiple things at once, which I really recommend. Like if the line art is really messy and there's like an area with just like a bunch of like little holes, just like circle the whole thing if it's supposed to be the same color. So this is just the paint bucket tool. If I go to repaint, it is only going to paint stuff that has already been painted before, versus the paint will paint everything. Paint unpainted means it's only going to paint stuff you haven't painted before. So if you've gone through all the layers and you've done all the lips, you can go with paint unpainted and just circle the whole body or whatever else you need to paint, and it won't affect what you've already done. Unpaint is going to unpaint things, which is pretty self-explanatory. Now we get into the other bits. So let's say you have something and you've drawn it and it's like open like this. Toonboom when you're painting stuff, it wants everything to be closed, or else it's not going to recognize where it needs to paint. So you'll see these little, it will be yellow whenever it's on an open end, and also like in the middle sometimes you'll have like stray things, but every open end, like sometimes they are yellow when it's closed, but every time it's open it will not be green, it will be yellow. So if you go to the close gap tool over here by just like clicking, you can do close gap and just like swipe, and it will just create a line, a straight line from whatever you've selected. So if I do close gap from here to here, it's gonna make that line there. So this is really helpful if you have like a line that just like doesn't quite reach. You could just like do that and close gap, and now you can go in and paint it. So that's like a really simple like shortcut to painting. Let's say you have like a really open thing. So like this was supposed to be a heart and it's not. So this is when you would use the stroke tool, and obviously I won't leave anything this open, but it will be really useful for a lot of the smear frames I do, because I can't close, because most of the smears are not going to be closed. You're just going to have to use the stroke tool to create some of the smear based on the lines that I've drawn. So this stroke tool will be like really helpful for that especially. And this basically just works as, again, it's like drawing the invisible line. So if I go, that wasn't supposed to work that well. So if I go here and I've got this, and I go to the line art layer, you won't see it. So that's why you would use a stroke tool instead of the pencil tool. I've been lazy using the pencil for the demo, but if you're filling something in, you would want to use the stroke tool on this layer, because then it's not going to affect the other layer unless you fill it. So a lot of times the stroke tool won't close itself. Sometimes it will, sometimes it won't. It can help to have this turned on, trim extra lines, and sometimes I put autofill, also like connect at line's end. But sometimes I have to go back with just a quick close gap to finish it off, and then you can paint it. So that will be all you need to know for like all the basic painting stuff. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. If you have something like this and you want to use the cutter tool to like cut out for like a smear frame, let me paint it first, and you want to cut it out for like a smear frame, you can also use the cutter tool on this color layer and it will cut out. And then if you want to fill it in with another color, you can do that like really quick and easy. But that's all of that. So when you're done, the last thing you do is you would set, if it's just a water background, you could set the color card to be like the water or the sky. If not, and there's like something here like this has the water in it, the last thing you would do is color the water with like whatever I've given to do that. So that this is another example of like where you would use the stroke tool. Actually, is the water here is not closed. I just drew the water line. This is all supposed to be water, so you can use the stroke tool, go through like that, and then this is supposed to be sky on top. So you can go through the stroke tool like that again, and then paint the water here, and then I forgot the sky in this palette, but then you would paint the sky up here. Oh, down here this is the viewport thing. So this shows like what the frame actually looks like. I like to keep it off a lot, that way you can do stuff like this, working outside the box. But if you want to see like how it would look, you can turn it on at any point. One more thing is when you're doing the cutter tool, I like to go over here and change the tip style to rounded. So a lot of times if you have like this and you want it like to look nice and you have it flat, it will do that, where it like cuts into this here and looks ugly. If you change it to rounded, I like the look a little bit better. So that's just like something you can do when you're doing that. Once you're done, oh, this will also turn off the onion skin. I'll go over the layers actually. So each layer has this one, which is like the visibility. So this is like the individual layer, like if you see it. This is like to solo a layer, which you can solo multiple layers at once. And then if you turn this off, it will unsolo all of them. This will change. This is like if you wanted to work on this layer and have the onion skin turned on. This is all onion skins. If you wanted to work on another layer but see the onion skin from the first layer, you could turn this on so that you can see the onion skin as you're working with this other layer down here. So that's helpful. This one you won't really need. This one is the opacity. So like sometimes I'll have the opacities, like all the opacities should be set when you get the file, but if you accidentally click something and you're like, why does it look like that? That's what this is. It's a little ghost. I think that's about it. Oh, to zoom in and out. Again, I've put on the other stuff, but zooming in and out is just 1 and 2 on your keyboard. If you want to rotate your screen, you can do like function alt. Nope. Control alt on mine. Sometimes it depends on the keyboard and you'll have to mess around. So there's that. And then to go forward and back a frame, you can use the arrow keys on your keyboard. I've got the keyboard shortcuts for all of these over here listed in the coloring overview. I also show how to go, which I can show it right now actually, how to change the buttons if you're using a pen. If you have like a Cintiq or anything with a pen that has buttons, you can go and change the buttons on the pen. I find is helpful if you're coloring a lot, because I'll change it to keystroke, and I've got Alt-I and Alt-C. So I'll change it to like the keystroke for the bucket tool and for the close gap, because those are the ones that I use the most. So if you're like coloring a really long frame and you're tired of like going back and forth or clicking on your keyboard, you can change that. You can also, under any of the, I assumed on Mac this would be under the Toonboom thing over here, but on Windows, just like keyboard shortcuts, you can go and look for any of the keyboard shortcuts or change them or add your own. So that's like really useful, because I think I've changed a couple of mine too. I think that's it. So the last thing you would do is file save, obviously, and then you could do file save as if you want to just do like a scene or shot number, whatever, final, colored, whatever. Or you could do a save as new version, I guess. The save as new version, that's going to upload a bigger file, so it'll be like a little bit more annoying to do, but it's also completely fine. So you can kind of choose whichever one you want to do. I usually just like save as like shot number, colored, final, whatever, and then you can upload it into the drive. So that's about it, I think. If you have any more questions, obviously like message me. I should be putting together a Discord soon so that we can so that I don't have to keep messaging like all of you individually, and then also you might be able to help each other out if I'm unavailable for some reason. But thank you so much, and if you haven't seen it already, the animatic is in the drive. I think I went over that earlier. The animatic is in the drive if you want to look at it, and also on my TikTok I have some of the work I already have. I might also upload my slideshow that has like all the work I've done so far if you're interested, but thank you all so much for volunteering to work on the project.